fucking are.
Rear Derek.
Student athletes. Oh, that is brilliant, sir.
And boom, we are live. Welcome, folks, to the American Movie Podcast. If you've never been here before, welcome aboard. I go through movies, news, documentaries, Netflix series, and I go over books. And today we're going over Abraham Lincoln, The Fiery Trial. So this is written by, let me find the book. What do I do with it? Okay, right here. So, The Fiery Trial, Abraham Lincoln and American Slavery. It's written by Eric Foner. It won the Pulitzer Prize. So, it was a huge book, but it was a cool book because I've read a lot about Lincoln, and I mean, just going through school, and he's like one of the most iconic presidents in the world. So it goes with, instead of talking about his life, or it goes around like his policies and stuff like that, it's more of this arc of his attitude towards slavery and the American dream and the American ideal. So race was like a marginal problem within Lincoln. We added like the whole race part of it, but it was more of him thinking about American values, because he was known to be, he wasn't prejudiced. He hired 3 or 4 domestic servants. He employed black women, and then he also gave free legal advice to, I think it was Billy the Barber, and he was black as well. So it's like there wasn't prejudice towards it, but there was, he also didn't think that like they were 100% equal. Like there was for a large portion of the book, Lincoln's attitude, he thought there was going to be colonization. So I didn't know this actually. So colonization, they thought they were going to free these slaves or emancipate these slaves and then send them back to a different, or send them away. Like they weren't going to assimilate or vet these people. So that was just eye-opening in and of itself. But yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. And so it starts with the beginning, or like he's a little bit younger with young Lincoln, young Abraham, and it's talking about the first time he actually gets introduced to slavery. So that's a crucial point where he just looked at it, and within his soul, he saw like, hey man, that's not right. That we know that's not right. He looked at it and he's like, this is not right. And there's like several quotes where he purports where it's like, slave owners have put on, everybody has to do labor, and we slave owners have put that on the shoulders of other people, even though like labor and work is like a part of our like just being status. So he saw that, and he saw the inconsistencies, and he understood that it didn't align with the American values. So that was the most crucial thing. And he was just going to get him out. It was going to be colonization for a very long time. So, another part where probably the biggest turning point was the Confiscation Act, where the government actually acknowledged slaves as people versus property. So that was an important spot too within this too. And Eric, Mr. Foner, also says that like the Emancipation Proclamation, it was also a military doctrine, because he needed the enlistment of slaves or black people. He needed that enlistment because at the stroke of a pen, he freed 50,000 slaves, and once they enveloped or took over a territory that was the Confederates territory, and it became Union, all of the slaves within that area were also emancipated. So it was war of attrition, and they were kind of growing their enlistment list. So it was more of a military doctrine in his light. And the military was treating previous slaves or whatever, quite well. So they could testify against white people. They could testify just as it was equal. And they actually petitioned in 1864 where there was a petition where there was a pay gap. And so soldiers wanted equal pay. So then they got equal pay as well. So I thought that was really cool that the military was at the forefront of that. So, but yeah, so what else was there? Lincoln was so crazy. So at the very beginning, he got introduced to those slaves, or saw slavery for the first time. He was working in St. Louis. I think he was going down the Mississippi on a steamboat, as one does. And then he got there, he did his work, and I don't think he had enough money or something like that. He couldn't take the steamboat back to Springfield, so he walked. Lincoln walked merrily across Illinois. I'm just like, oh my God, we are soft. Lincoln walked. He just walked back. Man, I don't know if I've ever walked that much in my life. So it's just one of those things where you're like, man, these people were just on a totally different level. But he was incredibly smart, and he would read and introduce himself to pro-slavery stuff as well, so he could actually counter-argument and understand where a lot of the public opinion was. And he didn't write a lot of his speeches in order to, or even editorials in response to like newspapers. He didn't write just to console a few people that were loud. He actually wrote so he could sway public opinion. So he would choreograph like these long speeches, and just to sway public opinion. And one of the most moving parts of it is definitely the better angels of our nature speech. That one was big. And then I also didn't understand that they gave speeches for like 4 hours. It was like 4 hours people gave speeches. And then they would like take breaks and stuff like that. Like the crowd would just take breaks. And you're just like, okay, so that was 4 hours, and Lincoln's going to have his rebuttal. Strap in. Lincoln's about to open some windows. So at the Gettysburg Address, there was, I can't remember which order, but he just wanted to make sure. It was a really moving speech. I'm pretty sure this is the better angels of our nature. I can't remember, but it was a total of like 2 minutes. But before that, this guy had spoke about soldiers and the fallen and how we have to remember these people and commemorate them for like 4 hours. And then he comes up and just drops like a 2-minute speech. And he's like, people aren't going to remember what we say here or remember who was here or who fought in this battle, but we're going to commemorate them and make sure that they understand that it's not going to be all in vain. We're going to have some sort of memoriam versus that. And Lincoln, as himself, he doesn't know how iconic he was about to become. But yeah, he was just a great figure. And this was a stellar book and luminary in a lot of spots because it showed the attitude change of Lincoln as well. Because he's not a static character, just like we all are. We're not static at all. Our attitudes and perceptions and everything changes moment to moment. And then 3 or 4 years have passed, millions of moments, then you have a different attitude than you did when you're 30 or 40. So you get to see that arc, which is really compelling and really interesting. And there's just a lot of insight in how he traversed this political landscape. And actually, man, he influenced so much, and he talked with everybody. Everybody knew him, you know? So it was really cool. So that was The Fiery Trial with Abraham Lincoln and American Slavery, written by Eric Foner. If you have any interest in Lincoln, this is one of the best books about Lincoln, just because it's not an autobiography, or it's not a biography. So yeah, check it out if you like. It'll be the link is down below or whatever. So check that out as well. Let me know if you're checking out anything. Feel free to add me on social media or talk to me on there. Let me know what you're watching. Let me know if you see anything cool. I'm watching Disney Plus, so look out for podcasts about that. And if you want to start your own podcast, I created a digital course called the Podcast Publisher Pro. Check that out as well. The link is down below. You can go to socialcreative.org and you get the Podcast Publisher. It's start to finish, everything that I've learned doing multiple podcasts over years. And I think I've done like 700 videos here with the American Movie Podcast on YouTube. So everything I wish I knew, I put it in there, and it's step by step. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me too if it doesn't make sense or you skip something or whatever. So I'll be there along the way as well. So check that out. So yeah, that was The Fiery Trial. Until next time, folks. Bye 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 bye.
hell? There's a goddamn cougar in the car.
Oh, there's a cougar in the car. I put it in there.
Jesus. Look up idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No. The definition of the word